Donc, soit aujourd'hui l'Ukraine va défendre sa indépendance, sinon, en tout état de cause, nous serons obligés de rentrer dans ces conflits parce que nos valeurs principaux qui étaient le fondement de notre civilisation, de notre culture, de notre seront en danger fondamental. Donc, on n'a pas de choix.
This is my first video update from Athens, Greece on this Monday morning. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with the statement from the Polish ambassador to France, where the Polish ambassador said this during a television interview. He said, "Either Ukraine will defend its independence today, or we will be forced to enter into this conflict." So that statement from the Polish ambassador went viral, and it freaked a lot of people out because it basically says that as Ukraine continues to lose in this conflict with Russia, and Ukraine is losing this conflict with Russia, Poland's going to be forced to enter into a conflict with Russia. And 3 months ago, I would have said, yeah, Poland is absolutely thinking of biting off a piece of Western Ukraine and entering into a conflict with Russia. That's what I would have said 3 months ago. But today, given everything we know about the collective West's demilitarization and the fact they don't have the ammunition and the supplies to fight this type of war of attrition with Russia, I would say that the Polish ambassador to France was parroting talking points of the Polish government maybe 3 months ago, and I would not take these statements from the Polish ambassador too seriously. I could be wrong, and Poland may be baited by the neocons into entering the conflict in Ukraine and maybe trying to trigger some sort of Article 5 so that NATO can jump into the conflict with Russia, but I just don't see it. At this moment in time, with everything we know about the ammunition supplies of Poland and the collective West, I ask myself, how are they going to fight a war against Russia? How are they going to do it? It doesn't mean they won't do it, but something tells me that the official policy in Poland at this moment, the government's policy at this moment in time is let's allow Ukraine to fight Russia until the last Ukrainian. Let's give Ukraine whatever weapons we're willing to part with. Let's give them whatever money we're willing to part with, and let Ukraine fight the Russians for as long as they can. And hopefully the Zelensky regime will be able to buy some time so that in the future we can get into a position where we can bite a piece off of Western Ukraine, or maybe the Zelensky regime will deliver some sort of miracle military victory, which will lead to the Putin government collapse, something like that. I think that's the official policy of Poland at this moment. That's probably the official policy of NATO and the collective West. Buy time, allow Ukrainians to fight the Russians until the last Ukrainian, and hopefully in the next year or two, if we can buy a couple of years' time, we'll be in a better position to either take on Russia, to either bite off a piece of Ukraine, or to force some sort of regime change in Moscow. I think that's the plan at this moment. Once again, I could be wrong, and Poland may be baited or forced into a conflict with Russia. Who knows what the neocons may force the Polish government to do. But the Polish embassy in France, they're kind of walking back what the Polish ambassador said. They came out with a statement saying that the media misinterpreted the words of the ambassador. And this is what the Polish embassy in France said. Attentive listening to the entire conversation makes it clear that there was no statement about the direct participation of Poland in the conflict. There was only a warning about the consequences of the defeat of Ukraine, about the possibility of Russia attacking or drawing into the conflict the next countries of Central Europe, the Baltics, and Poland. The embassy noted that the ambassador in the interview clearly says that Poland is not at war, but is doing everything to help Ukraine defend itself. So I think this statement, this kind of walk back, misinterpreted what the ambassador said statement from the Polish embassy in France kind of echoes what I just said, which is fight Russia until the last Ukrainian, and let's hope for better days so that we can get the regime change in Moscow. Anyway, that is what the Polish ambassador to France said. Let's now talk about the big meeting taking place right now in Moscow, the 3-day summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. I believe the Chinese delegation has landed in Moscow. They've already landed in Vnukovo Airport. And we're going to have a big 3-day summit taking place. And before the Chinese delegation left for Moscow, we had Xi Jinping publish an article in the Russian publication, the Russian media site RIA Novosti. And we had Russian President Vladimir Putin publish an article in the Chinese People's Daily, which is the official newspaper of the CPC. So the Chinese president, he is publishing an article in Russian media for the Russian people to read. And the Russian president, he is publishing an article in Chinese media for the Chinese people to read. And here is an excerpt from what Vladimir Putin wrote. And I quote, Russian-Chinese relations have reached the highest level in their history and continue to grow stronger. In quality, they surpass the military political alliances of the Cold War. They have no superior and inferior. There are no restrictions or forbidden topics. Our political dialogue has become extremely trusting. Strategic interaction has become comprehensive and entering a new era. Entering a new era. There is no inferior or superior. There's no superior or inferior, is what Putin wrote. They won't call it an alliance, but it surely sounds like an alliance. It absolutely sounds like an alliance. And here is what Xi Jinping wrote in RIA Novosti. The year starts with spring and success starts with deeds. There is every reason to believe that China and Russia are fellow travelers in development and revival and will make a greater contribution to the progress of human civilization. The world today is going through profound changes unseen in a century. The trend of peace, development, and win-win cooperation of multicentric international relations is irreversible. The transition to a multipolar world is unstoppable. Wow. That's a pretty big statement coming from the Chinese president. Here's a couple of examples of this unstoppable multipolar world order. Sputnik News, the Russian news agency, is reporting that Saudi Arabia plans to reopen its consulate in Damascus after the holy month of Ramadan. So Saudi Arabia is reopening their consulate in Syria. A couple of years ago, Saudi Arabia was trying to topple the government of Assad. They were involved in the regime change of Assad in Syria. And now they're talking about reopening their consulate in Damascus. This is Saudi Arabia. One of the most important allies of the United States. Maybe the most important, because Saudi Arabia props up the petrodollar. And here's Saudi Arabia saying, you know what? It's time to open up a consulate to reopen up our consulate in Damascus, and to continue to signal that we're going to move towards this multipolar world order, because that's what this is. It is Saudi Arabia signaling in which direction they're moving towards. Another example of this unstoppable multipolar world order is that today in Moscow, you have the Russia-Africa multipolar world event taking place. Russia-Africa in a multipolar world. That is the event that is taking place in Moscow. It is under the sponsorship of the Russian State Duma, and Russian President Vladimir Putin will speak at this conference today. And this conference is a run-up, it's a preparation for the second Russia-Africa summit, which will be attended by more than 40 delegations from the African continent. An unstoppable multipolar world order. So you have a huge China delegation, which is in Moscow today, and at the same time you have the Russia-Africa in a multipolar world order event taking place in Moscow. All of these things are taking place in Moscow today. The unstoppable multipolar world order. Now, keep in mind that the U.S. State Department, they have already issued a statement ahead of this three-day meeting in Moscow, saying that any peace agreement negotiated by China and Russia and then brought to Ukraine for a ceasefire or some sort of roadmap to peace, it would be considered by the United States as null and void, and they would veto any type of a peace process mediated by China. And the State Department even issued a statement saying that they would not agree to any type of a ceasefire or a peace settlement, because it would mean that there would be a territorial loss for Ukraine, and for the United States, that would be unacceptable. A territorial loss for Ukraine for the United States would be unacceptable. And the United States has been telling us, the Biden White House has been telling us for the past year, that their function is to support Ukraine. They will support Ukraine in fighting the conflict with Russia, and if Ukraine does want to engage in negotiation, the United States has said that they will support Ukraine in a negotiation with Russia. But now the United States is saying that they'll veto any type of peace process that is negotiated, mediated by China and agreed upon by Russia, and then is brought to the Zelensky regime. The U.S. will veto it. So no peace in Ukraine. The Zelensky regime decides nothing. We already knew that. And the real decision makers in this conflict in Ukraine are located in Washington, D.C., in the State Department, in the office of Vicki Nuland and Anthony Blinken and Jake Sullivan. Those are the people that are going to decide whether Ukraine will continue to fight this conflict until the last Ukrainian, or whether they, if there is a roadmap to peace, whether Ukraine decides to finally sit down at the negotiating table and puts an end to this conflict. It's going to be Nuland, Blinken, and Sullivan that will decide what Ukraine is going to do. And in this instance, if China does manage to get Russia to agree to some sort of a roadmap to a ceasefire or to a peace settlement, it's not going to matter, because the United States is going to veto it right away, without even seeing the plan, without even reading the proposal. If we do get to that point, the U.S. is going to veto it. Anyway, Politico, they came out with an article the other day, and the title to this article from Politico is "The United States Creating a Legion of Doom?" Is the United States creating a Legion of Doom? The Legion of Doom is in reference to DC Comics, Superman, Batman, Justice League. That is what Politico is talking about. And this Legion of Doom consists of Russia, China, Iran, and a little bit of North Korea as well. Those are the countries that are in this Legion of Doom that Politico is talking about. And in this article, Politico makes it a point to say that according to their research, according to the people that they've interviewed, and they say they've interviewed academics in China and Russia and Iran, and they've interviewed students in China, Russia, and Iran, and according to their research and to the interviews that they've conducted, the Chinese, they hate the Russians, and the Russians hate the Chinese, and the Iranians hate the Russians, and the Iranians hate the Chinese, and the Chinese hate the Iranians. And you know where I'm going with this. All these countries, they hate each other. They absolutely hate each other, according to Politico. But the collective West sanctions against all of these countries, well, they have brought them together, and they've formed this Legion of Doom, the Justice League facing off against the Legion of Doom. So these countries have been pushed together by U.S. sanctions, by collective West sanctions, and they've now formed the Legion of Doom. This really shows you how the collective West media thinks. They really do think in terms of movie scripts and DC Comics and the MCU and the Avengers and Captain America and Iron Man and Superman. And they really do think in these terms. It's really an incredible article when you read it. But look, if Putin and Xi Jinping are part of this Legion of Doom, if this is the Legion of Doom and these guys are the enemy, that would make the Justice League. That would make the Justice League consisting of Biden and Ursula and Trudeau and Olaf Scholz. They're the Batmans and Supermans and Wonder Womans and Iron Mans and Captain America, Aquaman. Captain America and Iron Man, they're not in DC Comics, they're Marvel. But anyway, that would make those guys the superheroes, right? That's the Justice League. Since we're sticking with DC Comics, that's the Justice League. It's Joe Biden. He's the leader of the Justice League, right? Captain Corn Pop. His superpower, Captain Corn Pop's superpower is turning everything he touches to you know what. That's his superpower, Captain Corn Pop. And then we have little Olaf Scholz. Little Scholz. His superpower is he has the superpower of deindustrialization. He can deindustrialize any economy in a matter of 6 months. That's Captain. That's little Olaf Scholz. And with Olaf Scholz, we have who else? 360 degrees Annalena Baerbock. Her superpower is she can make her opponents. She has the superpower of stupidity. That's 360 degree Annalena Baerbock, right? Her superpower is that she can make her opponents, she can cripple her opponents with her stupid comments. She just cripples them. That's Annalena Baerbock. Who else is in the Justice League? Let me know in the comments down below. Who else is forming this Justice League of Nations? You have Ursula von der Crazy. She has the power to turn economies into tatters. Into tatters. That's her superpower. And who else? Justin Trudeau, right? We have Trudeau, you idiot. He's also in the Justice League, and Trudeau's superpower is that of people kind. He has the superpower of diversity and inclusivity. That is Trudeau's superpower. So this is the Justice League that is taking on the Legion of Doom, according to Politico. Anyway, Oh man, this should be my clown world. The Czech president, Pavel, he came out with a statement, and this is what he said in connection to the conflict in Ukraine. And I quote, "Many countries, many politicians expect some progress this year. I believe that Ukraine will have only one attempt to launch a major counteroffensive. Therefore, if they decide to launch a major counteroffensive and it fails, it will be extremely difficult to get funds for the next one." Mr. Pavel, President Pavel of the Czech Republic, I believe he's a former NATO commander as well. So you would imagine that he understands the military situation. That's what one would like to think. And basically what he is saying in this statement is that Ukraine has one shot to deliver a victory, to deliver a decisive blow against the Russian military. They have one shot, and according to President Pavel, this shot better come within the next month or two. This is what he said to the newspaper Respospolita. And I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but that's what he said in this interview to this newspaper. So they have one chance to deliver a blow to the Russian military, and this one chance better come in the next month or two. And that's it. If they blow the opportunity that they have, the one opportunity that they have, well, then it looks like the collective West is not going to be in a position to supply additional weapons, ammunition, artillery, and even money to the Zelensky regime and to Ukraine. This is the Czech president telling Ukraine, this is your Eminem lose yourself moment. After this, it's over. It's over. I'm trying to think of the lyrics to that song. Give me 1 second. Your palms are sweaty. Zelensky's palms are sweaty. Knees weak. Mom's spaghetti? Is that how the song goes? Knees weak. Knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomits on the sweater. Mom's spaghetti. Oh, man. One shot for Zelensky. Zelensky's palms are weak. Arms are heavy. He's vomiting on his sweater. Mom's spaghetti. Anyway, that's the statement from the Czech president, Pavel. And do I have an update from what is going on the ground in Ukraine? Not really. I don't really have an update. The last that I read, the last reports that I got, is that Avdiivka is inching closer and closer to an encirclement, and Bakhmut is also fierce fighting is taking place in Bakhmut, and the Russian military, I said this in my video yesterday, the Russian military may be moving towards some sort of double pincer around Chasov Yar, but I can't really confirm that. Time will tell. Oh, here's an update on what's happening on the ground in Ukraine. As I said in my video yesterday, I think it is now confirmed that the Ukraine military, they have launched some sort of counteroffensive probing activity in the Zaporozhye Kherson region in the south of Ukraine, and it looks like they are preparing for this one-time shot. Maybe this is going to be the one-time chance to launch an attack towards the Russian military, most likely in the south. So we are seeing some probing activity there, and we may even get this counteroffensive. Maybe even this week, maybe in the next week or two. But there's definitely Ukraine military activity in the south of Ukraine, and it looks like this is where there's going to be some sort of counteroffensive. Is this going to be Zelensky's Eminem moment? Is this the big one? I'm not sure. We'll find out. But there are reports that Ukraine is moving a lot of military resources in that direction as well. So that's the news that I have from from on the ground in Ukraine. Let's do a quick clown world and we'll wrap this video up. And this clown world is coming from the pubs of the UK, of London. In the heart of London, Vladimir Putin suddenly appeared on the screen in a pub in the heart of London. Dozens of visitors watched the Russian president visiting Mariupol. The staff of this pub, they claim that it somehow switched on by itself. The barkeeper desperately pressed all the buttons, but Putin went on checking the reconstruction of the city of Mariupol. Oh, that must have been funny. That must have been funny to be sitting at this pub in London, and all of a sudden you see Vladimir Putin driving around Mariupol, inspecting some of the new apartments in Mariupol. Probably like, what's going on here? The Russian government is giving free apartments to people in Mariupol? Wow. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. Duran.locals.com. I'm laughing because I'm like picturing the video magically appearing at this pub and the barkeeper's like trying to turn it off. It doesn't, I can't switch it off. What's going on? It's like something out of a movie. And I'm trying to switch off this damn video, but it's not turning off. Damn it, what's going on? Oh, man. Anyway, we're on Rockfin, we're on Rumble, we're on Odyssey, we're on BitChute, the Duran.locals.com, and go to the Duran Shop, 10% off. Use the code GOOD DAY. Take care.